appointed Nadine as the first ever Surgeon General of California, and she's going to use that post to get early screening for ACEs and early treatment of ACEs into homes in California, the homes and schools. So it was because of Nadine's TED Talk that I took another look at my own childhood. It's not that I was completely unconscious about it. I talked with my sister, and she told me, yes, you're the one that caught it all the time. It was just me. And she sort of was my surrogate mother, frankly. Gosh, I've never said that before. Oh, I'm sure. Wouldn't she be a good surrogate mom? Okay. So, I began to just take a look at the ACEs in my life. I took the little 10-question thing, the little survey, and I turned out to be about a little more than a 3, you could say, on the ACEs score. So it wasn't disastrous in my life. But it was there, and I had never really looked at it. I just sort of, pushed it down and kept on going. How many of you have done that? Just pushed it down, kept on going. Just identify with my spirituality and keep moving. But now I have fully owned my ACEs, and you know what I realized? I realized that the connection practice had been healing me all along. I didn't actually have to name it as abuse or being an at-risk kid, which I was, but I didn't name it, and yet still I was being healed. That this drive I had for authentic peace brought me to healing. How many of you have had this drive for authentic peace in your lives? All right, so now I no longer stuff my feelings and needs. Now, friends, when I have a negative feeling, I go to my connection practice boards when I work it out immediately. We have feelings and needs here, and this is the whole connection practice right here on this board. So it's become very efficient to teach it to people and to do it, to make it visible in the home so that the moment you have stuff come up, whether it's from a trigger from your childhood or whether it's just life as an adult, you can go to the boards and work it out. And I have a fiance now, and actually we're getting married at Unity Village on August 25th. And in any relationship, tensions can come up, and we have a really happy, healthy relationship. And at the same time, we're human beings and things come up. So the moment something comes up, we just go right to the boards. My feelings, my needs, your feelings, your needs. Let's get into coherence, listen to spirit, and boom, 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 we're done. And now, when I coach someone, I use the boards because it makes it so easy for them to be self-empowered. I just take them through the process. You see, it's all about self-empowerment. It's not about me analyzing them, fixing them, any of that. It's all self-empowerment. So I'm going to give you an example right now. I had a woman come to me for some coaching, and I didn't know anything about her. I'd actually met her at Unity in San Jose. And so she came to my house, and as she started opening up, I could see that she was in a nightmare. She had a situation where, being a legal immigrant, someone from the government had come to her home, and the whole experience with him had escalated into the place where she thought he was out to get her, to put her in jail, to ruin her financially. It just turned into this huge emotional, financial, and spiritual crisis. And so when we do the connection practice, we write the challenge up here with an erasable marker. So she wrote her challenge up there that she was afraid of going to jail, afraid of losing all of her savings. And so she began to put all of her feelings from here over here. For example, that she was stressed, she was nervous, she was angry. And I'm not going to put all of them over here. I'm going to add afraid. Okay, this woman had the feelings piled up to here. She had almost every negative emotion on this side over here as her feelings. And then she began to put her needs over here. And so she had a need for trust. And she had a need for, see if I can find it, security. And so on. And she also had a lot of unmet needs, and they were just piled up here on the board. And so then I asked her to look at her needs and to choose the one that really was the strongest. What was the unmet need in this situation? And she chose emotional safety. So this is the place for the main need. So she said, you know, my biggest need is just to feel safe, emotionally safe. I'm so scared. So then the next step was for her to guess the feelings and needs of this government employee. So she started guessing his feelings, that he was motivated to do his job, that he might be a little worried about how she's been responding, that he's maybe a little uncertain about how to act in this situation. And then she had all the needs, all the feelings right here, and then she started guessing his needs. And she guessed that he had a need for clarity, and he had a need for order, and some other needs, and then she also put need for respect over here. And then she had to guess what his main need might be. She said, well, maybe his main need is respect, because I did get kind of scared, and so I kind of pulled back from him. And so I said, okay, so now we've got the main needs, your need for emotional safety and his need for respect on the table. And so now we're going to go into heart-brain coherence. How many of you know about heart-brain coherence? You probably heard some messages on that about from heart math. All right, so I guided her into heart focus, heart breathing, heart feeling, appreciation. And then she asked herself, what do I need to know about this situation? She opens her eyes after she's got an insight. And she said, you know, I realize now I never once gave this man respect. The way it looked from his perspective, I was just so scared. I just wanted to get away from him. So he probably perceived that as lack of respect, and then he got more and more suspicious of me and more, aggressive, and the whole thing escalated. I think I could just call him up and say, gosh, I'm so sorry. I realize now I didn't give you any respect, and I'd like to have a do-over. I'd like to just start again and see if we can't really communicate, and I'm willing to give you respect now and to hear what you have to say so we can work this out. So friends, there's so much unnecessary suffering that can be prevented if we know how. Isn't that right? We can get down to the essence of things. We define the connection practice as the combination of empathy and insight. But when I talk to spiritual audiences, I tell them the spiritual language behind it, which is really, it's living from the intersection of wisdom and compassion. Empathy is like compassion. Insight is like wisdom. When we learn how to access those two great strengths at will, then we can bring them to bear on any challenge coming our way in life. And we can, in 5 minutes, instead of being in therapy for 5 years. Does that sound good? All right. So, when Nadine closed her TED Talk, she said, I had to learn a big lesson. She said, I was deeply disappointed in the response of people once they realized the connection between childhood abuse and adult health. I thought everybody would just get behind it with their money, their education, everything. And golly, that just didn't happen. Don't you think that is because it seems like such a big, overwhelming problem that we're just kind of in denial about it? It's so big that we can't imagine bringing it down to size. I've been to the Student Mental Wellness Conference in Sacramento, California 2 years now. And this is a conference where guidance counselors come in from all over the state to to learn. And so I've had an exhibit there for 2 years, and I did a workshop actually last year. And so the guidance counselors come along to my booth and they see these boards here, and they go, oh gosh, you know, this would really help because I'm so overwhelmed. The number of at-risk kids is increasing all the time, and there's no way there's ever going to be enough counselors for them. So this might help me to really self-empower them, to get them where they can do things for themselves, process their feelings and needs, and get to creative answers, insights on their own. So we know that the need is big, and actually it seems to be increasing. Just on TV, just since I've been here, I've heard that the reports of child abuse since 2017 have increased almost 13%. Now, it could be because people are reporting more. It's hard to tell exactly what that's about. I hope it's because it's reporting more. But we also know there are an increasing number of at-risk kids. So, you know, even if we achieve regular screening for ACEs, it's still a tall order, isn't it? Is that how you perceive it? A tall order? Because we know that generational pain begins with the parents. If we don't heal it in ourselves from our own childhoods, then we pass it on. Isn't that right? It's programmed, and we all know about this immunity, that we have to work with that, and we have many ways to work with that. But it's important that we work with the parents first, that we can stop the cycle if we can educate the parents about how to manage their inner lives, so that they are not teaching to either push it down or put it out your mouth in a way that's hurtful, or, you know, hitting, violence. But we can teach parents how to manage their own inner lives, and then they can teach it to kids. So the most practical way that I have found to educate parents is by having the boards in the home. Like an upset comes up in the home, hey, in our family we know what to do. We know how to keep everybody's needs on the table. We can process it. We go into coherence, which is really, friends, just about getting ourselves out of the way so we can hear spirit. We get still. We know exactly the most efficient way to get still, get the static out of our system so we can be quiet and hear that answer from spirit coming through. So if families could just learn that much, how much would change? Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world without adverse childhood experiences because the parents know how to teach their kids to be socially, emotionally, and spiritually intelligent? So, this method is scientifically based, but it's also spiritually profound, friends. One of the steps in the connection practice, as I mentioned, is coherence. And if we could just teach the parents coherence, that would go a long way to healing these memories and these triggers around adverse childhood experiences. But I want to share one example of the power of coherence. When I was in Vancouver at a big peace conference, it was an international peace conference years ago when I was first teaching it, and I was teaching a workshop, and I had about 50 people in the workshop. So I was ready to teach about coherence, and we teach that with biofeedback. So we have a volunteer who comes up, and I put an ear sensor on their ear, and then we see that if they're incoherent, the screen is going to have a line that looks like that, and if they're coherent, it's going to look like this, all right? So I always invite someone to come up. So I invited a volunteer to come up. Her name was Sandy. And so Sandy sat down by my laptop. I put the ear sensor on her ear. And the first thing I do when I'm demonstrating this is I try to stress the person out. It might seem a little cruel, but it's a good way to, demonstrate the shift between a stress rate and coherent heart rate variability. And so I put Sandy there in the middle with the ear sensor on. I asked her to count backwards from 100 by 8s. 100 minus 8, that minus 8, to stress her out a little bit. That stresses most people out, especially if they're in front of 50 people. They don't know. And so I could not get her stressed. This woman was in high coherence. There's a little graph that shows, if you're in high coherence, the green goes up, 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 up. Well, she was in high coherence from the beginning, and she stayed in high coherence. So it was a lousy demonstration. So after it was all over, I asked Sandy, how did you do that? Most people, when they come up, they're nervous. They've never done this thing before. And, they get incoherent, and then we coach them into this nice coherent state where the heart and brain are working and we get ourselves out of the way. How did you do that? She said, well, when I was a kid, my family was really dysfunctional. I was battered, and I was put in the closet for long periods of time without food and water. And somehow, when I was in the closet, I stumbled across what you're teaching today. Somehow, I found that happy place in my heart, and I held on to it for dear life. So every time that I was abused, I just would learn to go back into this inner world where I could create happiness. How about that? She said, that's why I'm a happy, healthy adult today. So I shared that with a psychologist once. He said, oh, that couldn't be. It doesn't work that way. Well, I witnessed it. I believe it. And we believe it, right? Because we know that when we do get out of the way, when we find a way to get to peace and to that happy place, that positive feeling, that we get connected to Spirit, and Spirit heals us. Isn't that right? That's what we know. Now, we know that many people have overcome their adverse childhood experiences by identifying with Spirit. Instead of identifying with temporary childhood experiences, we identify with Spirit. So people find their way to forgiveness of their parents and freedom and healing. But at the same time, we also know there are many people that don't, that have difficulty. Even if they discover their spiritual identity, that it's still a long road back to being a happy, healthy adult. That might be you, and that might be other people that you've known in life. Is that right? Can I see a show of hands on that? Yeah. All right. So, to heal that kind of experience in our life, it really helps to have something that is visual and tactile as a reminder in front of our faces. How many of you put affirmations up in your house, right? You put happy, positive things all over your homes, right? Because we need those reminders. And this is just a really great reminder that when I have a negative feeling, I know what to do. I can process it right here and now, and boom, 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 I'm done. I find that creative answer from Spirit, and I'm able to move forward with peace, harmony, and creativity. Let's see. I guess the main thing that I want to encourage you about today is that this big challenge of ACEs, of people who've experienced childhood abuse and neglect, can be brought down to size. It's teachable, friends. Social, emotional, spiritual intelligence is teachable in a very practical way for handling the everyday upsets of our lives. You know that ACEs cause internal and external disconnection. Isn't that right? We get disconnected. And so we need to reverse it. We need for connection to be a movement, for people to understand what it means to be connected inside and out, to have a movement around it, the kind of thing that Nadine Burke-Harris is about to launch in California. So now I do have authentic compassion for my mom. You see, I've been able to get to that point where it's authentic compassion, not some kind of stuffed down negative feelings. I've been able to turn generational pain into generational peace. And I want to see parents and grandparents everywhere able to do the same. So we stop that cycle. We cut it short. We change it from pain to peace. So I'm 100% committed to leading the connection movement, and I have trainers all over the United States, and we've got 40 in Japan now, who are also leading this movement. We are spreading globally. We've got a founder in Canada, one in France, one in Germany. It's happening. So that we can spread this not only in the United States, but globally. So, I'm just curious, dear ones. Being in unity and understanding that oneness is actually connection actualized, I'm guessing that you're really committed to that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed do you find yourself to be living from connection, living from actualized oneness? Does that word make sense to you? In other words, we know that we are one, but sometimes we don't act like it. Sometimes our parents didn't act like it. Sometimes as adults we don't act like it. What I'm talking about is actualized conscious oneness, where we not only know it as reality, but we know it because we're embodying it. We are connected inside. We are connected with others in our lives. On a scale of 1 to 10, how connected are you? Are you an 8? Are you a 9 on that scale of commitment to living from connection? Can I see a show of hands? I'm just curious. Are you committed to living? Being in unity, most people understand, yes, that's what I want to be. I want to embody oneness. I don't want to just talk about oneness. I want to embody it. Is that right? And so I say thank God for that. I say thank God for unity. And when I say unity, again, friends, let's not get into any kind of sense of separation. Can we just, just let it be a word that's bigger than any particular way of expressing it? Right? Right. So I say thank God for all the people in our world who are aiming to live from connection, from actualized oneness. And it is these people that have been the wind beneath the wings of the connection practice. You are the fertile field. You are the ones right now in this audience. Jan is a certified connection practice trainer back here. Nikki was in my course last week. Did you know that I'm teaching connection practice as part of the curriculum in the ministerial program at Unity Village now? Because we've had so much conflict in the unity movement. We need ministers to know how to do it differently. We need ministers to know how to embody connection, live connected here, and be able to keep the spiritual community connected, harmonious, creative together. Is that right? That's right. So friends, I thank you for being the most fertile field. I thank you for being the people out there in the world who are actualizing oneness by living in a completely connected way. Thank you so much. Yes. All right. So now we're going to move into meditation. I invite you to bring your attention down into that beautiful part of yours. Just dropping all of your attention down into the heart to connect with the one heart. The one heart. The one presence, the one power. Just dropping our attention down into the heart we go. And now let's breathe deeply and rhythmically as if breathing through the one heart, breathing into the love, breathing love in and out. invite you to just fill your hearts with that sweet feeling of appreciation. Just appreciating what's good in your life today. Feeling the sweetness of that. Just filling our hearts with that feeling of joy, of appreciation for what's good in our lives, until our hearts feel like they're overflowing. And now I invite you to bring to mind a memory from your childhood, a happy memory. I invite you to think of a moment when you were completely carefree. A moment when you knew you were in a friendly universe. A moment in time when you felt safe. Absolutely at one with the world. Safe and free. Whatever that is for you, perhaps you were gazing up at the clouds, lying on the grass, or playing with a pet. Just focus in on one happy memory from childhood. And let's just bring that feeling of happiness and safety, knowing that we mattered. Let's bring that happy feeling into our hearts anew. Just letting that child in you rejoice at life. Now I invite you to radiate that happy feeling out into this room. That carefree feeling, that joyous feeling, just filling this room with the energy of love and appreciation, of joy. And so we know that in that energy of love and appreciation that we are safe and that we each matter. Let's just take that in. We are safe and we each matter. And now I invite you to just whisper to the children of the world, to the children all over the world. Let's whisper to them, you are safe and you matter. You are safe and you matter. And so we see this love transforming the hearts of parents, grandparents, all those who touch the lives of children. We know that we are empowered to create a world where every person knows that they are safe and that they matter. And so it is. Amen.
much. Take that and ask a favor of me, will you?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Well, let's have an offering. So take just a second to get it ready, and then let's say a little prayer, okay? There you go. Ready? Find
My love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am joy-filled and grateful.
You're on that side. Get her on that side.
Stay in your way.
May God bless you and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung, and may you stay forever young. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong, and may you stay forever young. Forever young. Forever young. May you stay forever young. May your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation for when the winds of change shift. May your heart always be joyful, and may your song always be sung, and may you stay forever young. Forever young. Forever young. Yes. May you stay forever young.
Joan Baez, but Bob Dylan wrote it.
Well, that's my new mantra. I want to be forever young.
You already are.
How about community concerns? Do you have anything to be concerned about? Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I have some good news, and that's that my arm isn't hurting.
Right on.
And so I talked to the surgical nurse yesterday, and she said it might not ever flare up again, or it might flare up again next week. So it's my
Let's hope
choice.
not. How about that?
So I'm saying, unless it flares up today or tomorrow, I'm not going to do it.
What else? I like it when we don't have a lot of concerns. That's further evidence that we're blessed. Well, for those that haven't even been mentioned, will you say a little prayer with me? It's there in your sheet. Center in our hearts and minds.
In prayer, we let go of any thoughts of worry or challenge and simply rest in the stillness. We know that our source of strength and peace comes from God alone. We give thanks for divine order and trust that we are all held in the power of grace.
You need private talk? Dennis and Susan are available. Opportunity there. Next Sunday, Stephanie Sabato and Kelly Hunt. And Banjo Kelly, we might call her. Keyboard Kelly, okay. Banjo Kelly will be on next week. I want to thank Rita, Marie, and Peggy. Thank you. Is that a song?
See trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Feel free to sing along. That'll be lovely. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, a bright blessed day, and the dark saying good night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I see babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. as we leave today to go out and be part of this wonderful world that we know, we carry with us the love that we've experienced today. And we just joyfully share our light with the world and make it even more wonderful. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
And happy Father's Day.